Ladies and gentlemen, it's official. The Supreme Court has given President Trump the green light to end temporary protective status, and it's a devastating blow to the left's invasion. You don't got to go home, but you got to get the hell up out of here, is what they said. And of course, this has the left highly upset and crying over the ruling. And so let's start right here.
Court today handed President Trump two immigration-related wins. The first tackles his decision to end temporary protected status for more than 1 million migrants currently in the U.S. The second handles a policy used to turn back asylum seekers who show up at the U.S.-Mexico border.
This is wrong, this is cruel, and this is un-American.
Hundreds of thousands of Haitian and Syrian immigrants now in the U.S. could soon be facing deportation after two big wins at the U.S. Supreme Court for the president on an issue that voters said they trusted him to handle: immigration and the border. In a 6-3 opinion, the court held that the administration has the discretion to end temporary protected status, or TPS, for immigrants who have legal status allowing them to be in the U.S. as a result of their home countries being deemed unsafe due to conditions like a natural disaster or war. The relevant statute reads, quote, "There is no judicial review of any determination of the DHS secretary with respect to the designation or termination of extension of a designation." The court adding, quote, "The text is clear."
It's a dramatic win for the Trump administration, for common sense, for America first, and the like.
But the dissenters, led by Justice Kagan, argued that those who are losing TPS status should not be consigned to what she called devastating and indeed life-threatening injury.
The Supreme Court ruled 6-3 in favor of the Trump administration, allowing DHS to move forward with ending temporary protected status for migrants from Haiti and Syria, ladies and gentlemen. That's going to affect around 350,000 Haitians and about 6,000 Syrians who have been protected up until this point from deportation under TPS. But here's the thing. Temporary protection status is not supposed to be a permanent immigration program. You know, it was created by Congress in 1990 as a short-term humanitarian relief for people who cannot safely return to their home because of things like war, natural disaster, or extraordinary conditions in their country. And so the key word is temporary. Remember that. That means TPS can allow someone to live and work in the United States for a period of time, but it doesn't mean they automatically become permanent residents or citizens. The legal fight was not simply, can Trump deport people? The real question was, can federal courts block DHS when DHS decides to end TPS for a country? And the Supreme Court basically said, when it comes to DHS decisions about designating, extending, or terminating TPS, the law largely blocks courts from reviewing those decisions unless there is a strong constitutional claim. But that does not stop people like AOC from pushing her own narrative and crying over the ruling. Check it out.
What's your reaction to the Supreme Court decisions related to immigration? Republicans are applauding these decisions. What do you think about it?
I think it's really sad because these decisions are targeting exactly the kind of people that Republican voters said that they did not want targeted in the Trump administration's immigration policy. And in fact, this is a reversal of President Trump's promise to only go after quote-unquote criminals and rapists.
AOC's pretending Trump promised to deport only criminal illegal aliens. That's not true. The deal was to prioritize criminal illegal aliens, but immigration enforcement was never limited to just criminals only. And temporary protective status is the key word here once again. It's temporary. Say it with me, everybody. Temporary. AOC is trying to blur the issue. This ruling is not saying every TPS holder is a criminal. It's saying the government can end a temporary immigration protection when it decides that protection should no longer continue. That's the difference. Prioritizing criminals does not mean ignoring everyone else who no longer has legal status to remain in this country.
We are back with the Supreme Court's ruling on temporary protected status. It clears the way for the Trump administration to remove legal protections for hundreds of thousands of Syrian and Haitian immigrants. Again, these are immigrants who came to this country legally I want to bring in Andrea Flores, a former DHS official and White House advisor. Thank you for joining us. This is big stuff. What is the real world impact?
The real world impact, Stephanie, is that 1.3 million TPS holders are now at risk of having their status revoked by President Trump unilaterally and without fair review by the courts. I mean, just legally, this is a stunning decision that has an almost indescribable impact on our economy and our communities. So my heart is with every TPS holder who is seeing this news today and realizing, and I want to remind viewers, some of these TPS holders have lived in the United States since the 1990s. But now President Trump can come and take their status away in what is probably the biggest delegalization moment in modern history.
That argument is emotional and it ignores the facts, ladies and gentlemen. For this Supreme Court case, we're talking about TPS for Haiti and Syria. Haiti was first designated for TPS in 2010 after the earthquake. Syria was first designated in 2012 during their country's civil war, not in the 90s. And yeah, some people have built lives here. Nobody's denying that. But the program is called temporary protective status for a reason. It gives temporary protection and work authorization. It does not create permanent residency or guarantee right to stay forever. It seems like liberals are real quick to gloss over that important part of it. Then they say this will have an unimaginable effect on the economy. I mean, really? The ruling affects about 350,000 Haitians and 6,000 Syrians, while the U.S. labor force is about 170 million people. And so, yeah, there may be localized impacts, but unimaginable economic collapse, that's fear-mongering.
Well, one of the things that the court is saying is they have foreclosed judicial review with one exception, and that's if you articulate constitutional claims.
Can I pause?
Yeah.
Say that, explain that. Speak to me in New Jersey.
I'll speak to you in Southern California, where I'm from.
There you go.
So you can't go to the court and complain that you don't have temporary protected status anymore because they say the statute says you can't go to courts to overturn that decision unless you have a constitutional objection. And here the Haitian immigrants said, look, your ending temporary protected status was motivated by race. You did this only because you had racial discrimination in your heart. And to that, the court says something that I think is really interesting. They say, look, the Haitian litigants here gave us a bunch of examples of things that people in the administration said about Haitian immigrants and Haitian refugees that would have scandalized us. This is the majority's language, would have scandalized us just a short time ago. But whatever you think of these statements, they're insufficient to show that this administration was doing so based on their race. Why? Because they say the race-neutral explanation was because this administration just doesn't like immigrants generally. And that's stupefying to me. Well, they say, again, stuff I'm reading from the court's decision, that they've identified, meaning the Haitian litigants have identified a strong race-neutral explanation that this present administration has a stance on immigration and an antipathy toward past administration's TPS policies, meaning they're hostile to the fact that the Biden administration wanted to make this country more welcoming to people from Haiti, from Syria, from a number of other countries that were suffering humanitarian crises. And that combined with their general preference against liberal immigration policies, that explains the fact that they've cut this off for Haitians and Syrians, not the fact that they've got some racial animus in their heart. I suspect that the three liberals in dissent have quite an answer to that.
Okay, can I summarize that?
Please do.
The court is saying that because...
And so how did the court handle the claims that the Trump administration is doing this because of race and singling out Haitians? That was the claim. The court basically said, well, not really. It seems this administration has shown that it is against the TPS program in general. They want to end the program not just for Haitians and Syrians, but they want to be able to do it when they decide to do it for any group, any country. And once again, ladies and gentlemen, I hate to sound like a broken record, but it's called temporary protective status, not permanent protective status. So that kind of makes sense, right? But here is Stephen Miller making a great point about Haitians being able to live in Haiti, you know, their own country. Take a listen.
Does the administration consider Haiti a safe country?
For Haitians, absolutely.
For Haitians?
Yes.
Despite the do not travel limits?
Yes, so yes, Haitians live in Haiti. It's not our position that Haitians should leave Haiti. I mean, it would be It'd be crazy for us to say that Haitians couldn't live in Haiti. It's their country. Of course Haitians should live in Haiti. There's no viable asylum, or use a technical term here, CAT claim, or withholding claim, for any Haitian seeking relief from going back to Haiti, to their homeland. The fact that there might be pockets of Haiti where there's higher crime rates, guess what? There's pockets of Chicago with crime rates just as high, right? There's pockets of cities like St. Louis with crime just as high. Pockets of Los Angeles with crime just as high. It has never been the case that having communities that have high crime rates is a basis for asylum. Never has been, never will be.
It's just really fascinating to watch the liberal mind not be able to grasp the concept of what the word temporary means. You know, that's kind of been the word of the day during this video, right? And border czar Tom Homan explains how previous presidents never enforced this law until now, under President Trump. Check it out.
The TPS decision that the U.S. Supreme Court, just 6-3, about they can allow, so the president has the constitutional authority to make it temporary and not permanent.
It's the right call. You know, I've been doing this since 1984. TPS has never been temporary. That's why the whole statute exists. Temporarily give people protection while the country's in turmoil or after they suffer a hurricane. But the problem is no administration have had the guts to actually follow that statute. President Trump has the guts to follow the law. So temporary means temporary. When the condition of that country gets better, they need to go home. There are millions of people standing in line want to be part of the greatest nation on earth. And that goes back to my earlier point. People say, why you arrest them if they're not criminally under 10 years? Because they cheated the system. They may have been under 10 years, so let's remember, when you enter the country illegally, it's a crime, and they're doing that, putting themselves in front of the line while millions of people are taking their tests, doing their background investigation, paying their fees to be part of the greatest nation on earth. So temporary means temporary, and I'm grateful for that decision.
And so I'm going to leave it right here. The court didn't abolish temporary protection status. It didn't say people can never receive humanitarian protection. What the court said is that the executive branch has the authority to end temporary protection when the government determines they should end it. And lower courts with these activist judges cannot keep turning temporary programs into permanent immigration. That's a loophole. And yeah, it's a good thing that it was closed. The word temporary has to mean something, if that's what it is. I mean, makes sense. You cannot create a program for emergencies and then stretch it for years and years and years until it becomes permanent, because these individuals come over and have anchor babies and then are allowed to have some excuse even though they abuse the system. I mean, the left wants to frame this like cruelty, but the real issue is whether America still has the right to enforce its own immigration laws. And the Supreme Court just reminded everybody that immigration policy is not supposed to be run by liberal activists, emotional blackmailers, or liberal judges. And so, yeah, this is a major win, not just for Trump and the administration, but for the rule of law. Because if the status is temporary, then at some point the government has to be allowed to say the temporary period is over. But those are my thoughts in the update. Now I want to hear from you. Drop your comments down below. I appreciate when you guys chime in. Don't forget you enjoy the content. Smash that thumbs up for more. Subscribe to the channel. And as always, until next time.